All right, it's Sunday nights, and we are at the Virtual Nashville SuperSpeedway as we get you ready for the Transervice Winter Truck Series. It is round number 3 from the Virtual Nashville SuperSpeedway, this 1.33-mile concrete track, just about 30 minutes or so east of the Nashville area, a track that was built around the year 2000 or so, and of course hosted races up till 2011. Took a 10-year hiatus, sat there collecting dust, and all of a sudden 2 years ago they said, hey, we're going back because apparently people went to work and rebuilt the track pretty much on its inside and created what is turned into a nice facility, and that's where we get to race at this evening for race number 3 of this Transervice Truck Series season. So where exactly is the Nashville SuperSpeedway on a map? Well, that's a fantastic question. As I mentioned, it's actually in the town of Lebanon, which is to the east. And let's see if I can get it to go right this time. It sometimes likes to work. Here we go. It cooperated with me. Right there. South and east of Nashville, I guess so to say. There we go. Nashville SuperSpeedway ready to rock and roll for tonight. That 1.33-mile concrete track. It's the biggest concrete track in all of racing. And there it is. It's got some warehouses in the background and so much more. But it is, again, as I mentioned tonight, the third round of this Transervice Truck Series season as we get ready to go for 110 laps, 146 miles around this 1.33 miles, 79 degrees, the traditional default weather here at Nashville for Sim500's Transervice Winter Truck Series. I'm the captain, Chris Scala, Ricky Springer, fresh off a trip to Rock Vegas. As they say, we'll keep everything in Vegas, but we're going to talk about Nashville tonight and have a good old time here. Ricky, is a track that, like I said, it took a big hiatus. The trucks, Xfinity back in the day, the Indy cars, so many different series used to race here. Track took a break and then came back, brought all 3 series back, and needless to say, it has created a different style of racing here, and I don't know if that's come just maybe with time or just the fact that the surface has changed or maybe the residue they've put down here. But here on iRacing, we've got a track that not only we're going to see multi-groove racing tonight, we're going to see shifting on this track.
Yeah, and that's going to produce a different element into this racing. Of course, on ovals, shifting not usually a factor. That's more of a road course issue that we come to, with the exception of places like Gateway. But at a track like this, the corners tighten up so much on exit that getting down, getting higher up into your RPMs, and getting into that power band on exit is going to do you very well. But we'll have to see what that does for tire wear as well as we go through late race runs.
Yeah, it seems like the right front is where we're seeing the heavy wear at this track. And obviously, it's one of those long straightaways, and then you go down into these corners. They're going from speeds of like 170 miles an hour almost down to 125 miles an hour in these corners. A lot of braking, a lot of right front tire wear.
Yeah, absolutely. And these drivers going to battle that all race long. But it's also going to come to the side-by-side battles. We had spoke last week at Auto Club about these drivers, not being able to really run that car up wide on exit, running side-by-side. We're going to have to see who falls out worse for wear, the truck on the inside or the truck on the outside, having to maintain that line up top. So a lot of different lanes of racing, but also your equipment could take a toll depending on what you choose.
And that's what's going to make it fun here this evening as the warm-up goes on. We do have the point standings here. We'll put it up on the screen as of 2 races in. Where we sit in the points, it is Kevin DeBrown leading Brian Wortman all of 5 points. Wortman, of course, winning the first race. And then Pedro Mojica going to victory lane last week. But Kevin's had a little bit more of a consistent first 2 races. So he's up there in points right now. John Higman Jr., Steve Herring, and Derek Myers. Your top 5, Coleman, Dreiling, Gillenwater, Benfield, and Holyfield. The top 10 in points, 10 races, straight up, no halfway points or anything like that. Where you finish is the points you get. And then we'll have a quick 4-round playoff, basically, to get to the checkered flag for the season, this winter season in the Truck Series. So qualifying is all said and done. The warm-up is finished. And let's take us to the starting lineup here as we have 27 cars about ready to go racing here. And Tyler Dalton, who's been really fast, I believe this is his second pole. I'll have to take a look at the season. He'll start P1 alongside Pedro Mojica, Bob Gillenwater, Derek Myers. Derek's been pretty quick the first 2 weeks. Let's see if tonight's his night to get that win this season. Bobby Wetzel and Tommy Ryan, they'll start in row 3. Row 4, Brad Herman, John Higman Jr., and then your top 10. And row 5 is Kevin Stone and Brandon Key. Brian Wortman, there's the winner from the Atlanta Motor Speedway. He'll start 11th alongside Kevin DeBrown. There's your top 2 right there in the point standings in row 6. Row 7, Mike Montesi and PJ Luttrell. Scott Simley, Jeff Ryan making a return back to the series. Tom Dreiling, Ron Holyfield, a Carolina driver, starting 18th. There's the boss man, Joey Jatina and Jimmy Coleman in row 10. Jeff No and Mike Kelly, they'll take row 11. Eric Arnold, Randy Yoakum in row number 12. Row 13, John Fowler, Steve Herring. And row 14 is Doug Sigmund in the 27th position. So 27 cars ready to go racing here on this track. I'm kind of curious. I can't remember if I've seen this series on this track or not, but with the racing here, it's got to be very tough. I mean, is there a preferred groove you have when you come to racing out here at Nashville?
Absolutely. I think really the rule of thumb at a track like this, same goes for places like Michigan and Auto Club last week. The bottom is going to be the fastest on the short run, the shortest way around. If you can find your way through the bottom of the track, you're going to be much better off. But later on in the run, it's just going to come down to where everybody's running. You're going to want to stay out of the dirty air, get away from that aero tight. And most definitely, you're going to have to really focus on the shifting points of where you're going down, that you're not getting any wheel hop going off into the corners.
That's got to be very tough because most of the shifting they're doing is almost mid-corner because they're basically, it's almost like they're using the shifting to brake, which is a very interesting concept. You don't get to see much outside of a road course, as you kind of mentioned. 110 laps, 146 miles around this 1.33 mile track as Dalton and Mojica lead them to the green flag. Round number 3 is underway from Nashville as Dalton brings them down to turn 1. Our cameras tonight presented by TrackCams22.com. You can check them out online. They're on Facebook, in the iRacing forums, and of course TrackCams22.com is their side-by-side off too.
Yeah, and most of the field starting to single file out with the exception of the top 6. Dalton seems to forge ahead here as they enter into turn 3, still battling for the 3rd spot as they come out of turn 4.
As you see, Dalton has gained the lead there. Myers able to hold off the advances of Bob Gillenwater for 3rd. And one thing we do want to watch a little bit is we've seen Pedro and Dalton be, it seems like the fast 2 trucks at the beginning of the race. We saw the same thing in Auto Club as we got trouble in the back. One truck up in the wall. Tom Dreiling is off track. Mike Kelly with issues. No caution yet as they're scattering. John Fowler did not take the green flag, but no caution. Nobody went spinning. Everybody just kind of scattered and went off track, and there 23's got heavy damage to the right side. I saw Mike Kelly going off track. Let's review this real quick. It's already kind of started there. It looks like Dreiling in the 23 got into that Caterpillar number 2. And let's see, Dreiling was up here on the outside of Jimmy Coleman in the 54. Oh, there's more contact. Jeff Ryan gets turned sideways. Holyfield into the wall. That's where just everybody scatters.
Yeah, and it looks like that crash started way up in front, like you said, Chris, and then as it started to work its way down through the back half, everybody just checking up, going for the same piece of real estate, trying to get through.
Now, as I mentioned, as we were starting to say before we were rudely interrupted by wrecking, Tyler Dalton, Pedro Mojica, and Auto Club, those guys, of course, took off with the lead early in the race. Dalton led a lot of those laps, and then it seemed like after the first cycle of pit stops, Mojica jumped up front, and Tyler couldn't get around him, and then Tyler had issues later in the race, and here we go again. Same verse, or what, different verse, same as the first, maybe.
Yeah, absolutely, and it all came down to tire saving there at the end of Auto Club and who really saved their stuff, which is really the song that we sing almost every week, Chris, when we go to, I guess, what would be considered a cookie-cutter mile and a half. Nashville, none of the sort, but still the same rules apply of these drivers having to save their stuff. But early on in the race, what we might see is drivers like Dalton kind of forge out front and really push to see exactly what they can get out of the tire and out of the truck on a short run and see how long they can make their stuff last.
Brad Herman, a name that I have not said often, if at all, in the Sim500 series. The 85 Goodwrench truck making a pass on Bobby Rowdy Burns Wetzel, if you will, in the Exxon number 9. It's not 51, so it looks a little different to me, but makes the pass for the 5th position there. So everybody kind of giving and take early in this race. Tommy Ryan there behind him, but how tough is turn 4 at this track? It seems like that's Calamity Corner, and for me, it seems like when I'm in the mid-corner there, the front end bites, and it causes the rear end to kind of almost snap around if you have too much wheel in it. But then if you're not carrying too much speed there, you could smack the wall if you're going too fast.
Absolutely. It's one of those corners that you have to hit just perfect, really hooking the yellow line through the center of the corner, and you'll see some of these trucks actually going down there and getting a little bit of the apron to try and get that truck to rotate before you're fully back on the throttle, kind of getting ahead of that snap loose that you were talking about coming off, as well as getting tight and still being able to maintain that center speed coming off. But really, it's kind of the same song we sing at any track that has a huge tri-oval and a very long tri-oval, is that coming out of the corner, you think you have so much more room than you actually do. The backstretch, you're used to that straight wall just coming off and following it up, but coming through the tri-oval, you can see it starts to bow out there and then is just straight, and it is much not forgiving.
Which goes back to the whole, I started to mention it during the intro, the difference in 10 years ago when the cars ran this track to now. You know, before, I don't remember cars going down to the apron on the front stretch. I don't remember it being a multi-groove track. I do not remember, like, little things like that about Nashville, where now, even on iRacing, even in real life, it's like the cars, as you saw a minute ago, Derek Myers went down on the apron here, which is a lot flatter than the actual banking on the track. You see the middle lane being used. It's like, I don't remember that kind of stuff at the old Nashville when this track was originally around.
Yeah, and I think most of it is due to the advancements in the different cars that we're running nowadays. I mean, even the trucks, everybody talks about the Cup Series having more downforce, less horsepower, the whole 9 yards, but through every series, more downforce has been implemented into these cars than ever. So you really have a lot more control going down the straightaway, that if you want to use that apron, you can, and you can get turned down onto it and stick on there through the tri-oval.
Dalton with about a 1/10 of a second lead over Mojica. Everybody else is pretty much about a 1/10 or so separation as they just kind of get into a rhythm here. Fuel mileage about 65 laps or so. They should be pretty straightforward to one stop this race. The million-dollar question, we didn't get a chance to talk to many drivers here this afternoon, is will the tires, the right front, will it last you to that lap? This might be one of those where you maybe split the race and short pit a little bit to lap 50, or maybe even do a two-stopper here. But then again, the risk-reward of doing that is the risk part is you probably go more than a lap down, if not almost 2 laps down. But the reward is, of course, you don't have to worry about popping a tire.
Yeah, absolutely. And iRacing has implemented this great feature. If most don't know, iRacing has a default spotter, let you know inside, outside. But when your tires get down to around 50% life left, you'll get a nice little notification. Your spotter will tell you that your tires are wearing out. So some of these guys might even try and run all the way until they get that notification there of how long they have left on their tires to see when they're going to come down pit road. But the short pitting strategy, you could easily undercut quite a few cars, but we'll have to see the time drop off.
Watching Tommy Ryan here in the 99 car, I'm just watching. I can't help but think you and I talked a little bit off the broadcast. You know, we were just kind of sharing notes and that kind of thing, and you brought up how you turn the wheel, and you know, obviously we won't let that kind of stuff out. We'll keep that between us. But I'm watching Tommy because ever since you've told me that, I'm like, all right. Watching Tommy into the corner here. His right hand still at about 2 o'clock, so it doesn't look like he's putting too much wheel into the car, which is allowing him to save that right front likely.
Yeah, and the more wheel you put into it, the more it's going to run it off. So these drivers that, you know, have smooth hands, that's another big part of it. You see guys sawing on the wheel, going back and forth, even between the 2 o'clock and 12 o'clock positions. I mean, you're still sawing on the wheel quite a bit, which will wear out those front tires as you go through the run.
Which you don't want to do. Right front is your friend. You do not want to get tight there, as you see Tommy trying all over to get around that number 9 truck. You see the 60 of Higman there behind him. Should mention John Fowler, the 48 car, did not start the race, so 26 drivers officially taking the green flag. And for a track that is a lot of aero, so to say, for a track that you could say a lot of speedway in it on the straightaways and then a lot of short track maybe in the corners, these pack's not really spreading out. So it seems like the draft is kind of maybe working itself on the straightaways to help kind of keep these cars sucked together a little bit.
Yeah, and later on the run, of course, we're going to see more of the trucks getting spread out as guys start to kind of pick up different lines and run in different spots, which really what we're seeing now is kind of a bottom-dominant track. All these drivers not really searching for a lot of grip, rather. I don't know what just happened there, but not searching for a lot of grip. So as this goes on and these drivers try and stay out of that aero push, we might see guys starting to run the top, and that's where we're going to get spread out.
There you go. Dalton's led all of the 16 laps so far, but Pedro Mojica's right there on his tail. Derek Myers isn't let those guys get away. As a matter of fact, last time by, Myers was actually a tad bit, in this case, slower, a 78 to a 72, but just looked like there he had a good 1 and 2 and was able to make gains. But one thing that I kind of talked about this actually during the Friday night ARCA race that I covered at Indianapolis, seeing those cars trying to get down into the corner and getting that left front into clean air. You know, I'm kind of thinking of this right now because a lot of the times, and I think this track was one of them last season, Pedro Mojica and Daniel Falkingham would battle each other, and it seemed like Pedro would get that nose, and I mean literally from about where the grill is over to the wheel well into the clean air on the bottom side by either entering a little shallow or just get it right down on that yellow line. There's an example right there. And that little advantage would allow Pedro to just creep up and eventually make that move for the lead.
Yeah, and it like you said, it's all about getting clean air to the nose. I mean, you know, being in the draft down the straightaways is going to help you tremendously. But you see right there, just being dead behind that truck in front, you're going to get so tight, and down the straightaway, it's going to help you out tremendously. But getting that turn, especially through the center at a place like Nashville where the corners are so tight, gets really, really tough when you're tucked up behind somebody.
You can hear the shifting there on the 19 truck of Dalton. He's got Pedro there behind him. And one of the things, if you don't race on iRacing a lot, one of the things you might not know is, and I don't know if it's necessarily like this in real life because, I mean, I could be wrong by this, but like when you're drafting out there, even at a super speedway race, on iRacing, you get up behind a truck, and if you're directly behind it, you almost cannot get to the truck. But if you go in at an angle, to where like your part of your nose is out in clean air, but yet you're getting the draft still, and then you kind of turn in a little bit, then you're able to get to the rear bumper of these trucks, and that's where part of this dirty air is. You see now Pedro's there. Let's see if Tyler gives it to him. Pedro getting the run, both of them downshift in the third. Tyler's going to try to carry momentum off as Joey Jatina makes a unscheduled pit stop. Pedro should be able to clear him here on entry, but I was starting to say though, when you do that, that's kind of the equivalent of being in dirty air in a truck here at Nashville, because it's like you're not going to go anywhere when you're directly behind the other truck.
Yeah, absolutely not. And honestly, Chris, that's more of kind of an iRacing trick that a lot of drivers on the service use. In real life, once you hit that bubble, there's really nowhere you can go. The bubble's definitely still there, but once you get to that bubble point, unless you have somebody pushing you or 3-4 trucks lined up, getting to the rear bumper of a truck is very difficult, if even possible.
So Pedro Mojica becomes our second leader of the afternoon here, lap 22 already in the books. And as you mentioned, the field's slowly starting to spread out here in this race. About 2/10 separation right now. 3/10 now from Pedro to Dalton. It's about a second back to Derek Myers, who's starting to really fall off. His truck handling must be better on the short end, but that's usually going to help somebody like Bob Gillenwater. They're in that fourth position. Bob usually is somebody that runs better on the long run. You see that number 4 truck just kind of hanging out there, fourth position in front of Bobby Wetzel. They're about 2.2 seconds back, but one thing I'm kind of noticing, in some reason I guess I haven't paid attention too much, is Wetzel back at the wall there. There's a bump right there on the bottom of 3 and 4.
Yeah, and that's a huge issue, especially when you're running side-by-side, Chris. That bump gets worse the higher you go up on the track. So some of these guys that are trying to hang on the outside of another truck that's trying to work their way past or possibly trying to get by someone on the outside, you almost have to arc your corner until you get to that bump and hit it straight, or else the truck might just kind of straighten up on you and you'll be on a quick ride to the outside wall coming out of 4.
Which is interesting because I just went and looked over at the Google Maps real quick of why there could be a bump in turn 3 and 4. As caution comes out, Randy Oakham has spun around. Looks like over in the turn 3 and 4 area. He is up on the wall, but there's actually the tunnel over there. Go figure. As
Yeah.
Caution, go ahead.
I was just going to say there might have been some contact because he was pretty early on into turn 3 there, backwards into the wall. So we might have had some contact as we take a look at the replay here coming out of 2.
He's out here all by himself right now. Oh, wow. I thought it would be somebody behind him, but it's actually somebody in front of him. The way at that angle looked, that just did not look pretty at all. I don't know who that was he ran up on. It must be that truck right there.
Yeah, and like I said, Chris, it was just very early in the corner to get loose at all. And you could see, I believe something may have happened here as well when he hit the wall. Looks like both of them just entering in the same spot. But as soon as he hits the wall here, the truck just dead stops. So maybe some more damage than he might be able to get repaired for the evening.
Yeah, Jeff knowing the 55 truck was that other truck. They make contact, and unfortunately for Randy, he gets the worst of this deal. Very interesting there. As the leaders are going to come to pit road here, as we'll see one more time here.
Yep,
You know what?
Right.
You know what that looks like to me? It looks like one of those, again, situations. You see this a lot at, like, Michigan. For example, off the top of my head, it looks like one of those incidents where maybe Jeff was saying to let him go, but then Randy took a late entry into the corner. Jeff went more shallow, and they met.
Yeah, and it's just 2 trucks fighting for the same piece of real estate. When you're trying to get by somebody that's slower, you're not exactly thinking to be patient. You're really just trying to get by as fast as possible. So driving it in a lot deeper as we see the race off of pit road here, and it looks like Pedro going to win that one, and Dalton's going to go down a spot there.
Yeah, Tyler Dalton looks like going to lose second position to the 20 car Derek Myers. And I say second, I should say third, because Brian Wortman has stayed out to do his traditional I'm going to lead a lap. So there's 14 races in the season. Brian Wortman's guaranteed to lead 14 laps almost every season.
Hey, well, we can't forget as well that he has 1 race win. So 14 laps led and a race win.
And how many laps did he lead in that race win? 1.
He didn't even lead a full lap. He led half of the front straightaway.
All of an eighth of a mile, maybe. All of the Legends track, basically.
Yeah, the front stretch quarter mile.
There you go. So Mojica leads this thing at lap number 26. Let's see who is hanging out down here in chat. A lot of people down here. Let's talk to the 20 truck really quickly and bring him up here. We got one to go. Nope, lights are still on. We get a minute here. Let's talk to Derek Myers in that 20 truck. Derek, obviously a good run so far for you. It looked like later on in the run, after about 15 laps, your truck started to fall off. Is there anything you noticed that you could do to adjust your driving to make the truck last longer?
Yeah, it'd be definitely nice to get some clean air here because tighter behind everyone. So maybe if I can beat Pedro here on this restart and get around him early, I can have that clean air and not be so tight. I was trying to save something, but Pedro's pretty fast, and clean air really means something tonight. And we start shifting at about 15 laps into the run, so watch out for that.
We saw a predominantly bottom running track. Do you sense any kind of maybe moving up half a groove or so that could maybe help you out?
It'd be nice to, I mean, yeah, the bottom's the preferred line. If you get a run on someone, you got to take that run wherever it'll let you go, right? If they have the bottom block, you're going to have to go high and figure it out. Just don't pinch them down too much or you could find yourself wrecked.
Yeah, don't want that to happen. Well, you got still plenty of racing to go, about a quarter distance in. 28 laps complete, and you're running second now, so good luck the rest of the way, man. Maybe we'll talk in Victory Lane tonight.
All right, thank you, guys.
You too. Derek Myers in the Transervice number 20. And, you know, Ricky, I can't help but think, obviously, of exactly what you said. It's like, how can you get up into that groove and make a pass without killing your tires? Because obviously it's fresh pavement up there compared to where they've been running. And, of course, the rubber's going to collect itself. So it's going to be very tough for Derek. It's almost like he might have to try to do something right here on the restart.
Yeah, and one big thing as well for these guys, maybe starting, you know, 5th, 6th on back, is if there's somewhat of a bottleneck on the bottom. I mean, we just heard about the preferred groove being the bottom. A lot of drivers going to try and get down there as quick as possible. Maybe 1 or 2 spots are to be gained on the outside, having clean air, and expecting some checkups there on the bottom.
Which could make things interesting because that's where normally you see braking points kind of go different, and we could see some contact into turn one. We'll have to see, but Pedro's going to lead him off here as Tyler Dalton right there in third. He's going to hope he can get a good restart. They're actually in two different channels, so I'm pretty sure there won't be much communication between the two, or else I would say maybe Tyler could get the jump here. But as I think about it and I look over at the Sim500 Mafia channel, that's where you see Myers and Dalton and Gillenwater. So Pedro's kind of on his own up here at the front. As the pace car pulls off into the restart zone, they go. Let's see, there goes Pedro firing off. Tyler kind of spins the tires a little bit. That should give Derek the bottom. Maybe. It's going to be close here. Yeah, he's got him cleared. So now it's going to be side by side for third. So Myers will be able to get to the bottom. But a great restart from Mojica.
Yeah, and Myers really going to have to play the game of catch-up here early in the run to try and get back to Mojica up there and try and battle for that top spot, but still 2x2 for the fourth spot as the 19 truck just heads fourth, and they start to single file out, but the 99 now looks like stuck on the outside.
Yeah, at first it looked like maybe Tommy could clear Tyler going into turn 3 and 4 as Dalton, unfortunately, that inside row 2 spot, not just Bristol, it seems like it's going to struggle at sometimes. But falls back to fourth, but Tommy's going to fall back into the sixth spot. So now leaving Wetzel and the Brown there side by side as these guys race on. But so now, as I look at laps, we go green at lap 30, 80 laps to go. So easily a one-stop race. And I think to a point, it's got to feel a little more comforting on these drivers that you could just probably split this race in half and go 40 and 40.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, a lot of these team trucks also might follow kind of the same pit strategy like you would see at a super speedway. You know, the draft meaning so much here, at least early on in the run. If you come down and get new tires, you might want to pit with 3, 4, 5 other trucks to try and stay same speed as when the pack, I guess, at a track that is just under 2 miles could be. So.
To see the 60 truck of John Higman there outside lane trying to hold on to track position as much as he can, but unfortunately that outside line is non-existent right now. As you see, Eric Arnold's going to climb in there and take maybe the 9th position. And how much has shifting got to do with that? You think that not being able to shift might be able to help you in the outside line, but unfortunately these guys shifting, they got to be carrying so much center speed. That's probably what's killing the outside lane.
Yeah, absolutely. And shifting on the outside lane is somewhat treacherous because as you shift, and we heard it in the pre-race talking to some of the drivers, that it makes the truck rotate. If you start shifting on the outside consistently, you might almost rotate into the truck below you without even realizing it. So a lot of different strategies when it comes to where you're running on the track and those shifting points.
As you see, Tyler Dalton still 4th position. Mojica not able to pull away quite yet, but something tells me he might be just kind of laying back a little bit, saving those tires. He's pretty good at doing that, and as he's on a mission right now, he did not start the first race of the season at Atlanta, so he's kind of 1 foot behind, even though he did win the 2nd race of the season at Auto Club. So he's looking to get out here, win some races, and potentially get up there for when the small playoff race begins there at the end of this Winter Transervice Truck Series season, because it's one of those that basically this season is here to fill the gap of the off season for actual NASCAR racing and even in Sim500 racing up to Daytona in February. That's what this series is here for. Sunday nights is the, at least as of this season, was the Xfinity Series. It's also football season. And one thing that was talked about last season, as they used to run a 36 race schedule, was, hey, you know, with football starting, why don't we cut the season short, cut it down to like 25 races and then go from there. So that's why you're seeing this season already going, but yet we still got, you know, Monday night the next gen cars are still running their cup season schedule, and other series are still running because this series got done early, yet we get the winter season started a little early for the truck. So that's what we got this year for. Why we get to cover some truck racing on a Sunday night. I'm not complaining. I love the truck racing. One of my favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think as the latter is concerned, in my personal preference, it definitely goes the trucks first and foremost for my favorite, I guess, NASCAR series or sanctioned bodied cars to drive on iRacing.
I'm trying to, outside of maybe the racing and maybe some distances of races and stuff on the official side of things, what is it that makes people just kind of attract back to the trucks? Is it just the way it races? Is it the downforce that we have? Is it the fact that it's really easy to drive? I say it's easy to drive in most places, but like, what is it that attracts this everybody to this series?
Well, personally, I believe it's, we have the next-gen cars now. They're difficult to race. They're difficult to run side by side. They're definitely fun, but that comes with its fair share of difficulties racing them. Same goes for the Xfinity cars, but the trucks really, since most people have got iRacing and purchased the service, have stayed around the same. So I believe it's more of a consistency factor of, you can always go back to what you know, and
Right.
most people, with this being a C-Class series in the official standards, it's what they know, and going back to that, whether you're trying to gain iRating or just have some fun, is a lot more relaxed.
I mean, when you look at the predominant series that you see leagues run, it's this series right here, the trucks. I mean, obviously, we got a Wednesday night series that we cover here, GLSR, and of course this series now on Sunday nights with the trucks. So, I mean, there's not many series out there where if you go look around, they don't have a truck series. Now, obviously, some people kind of get to the point where they're like, well, it's kind of getting old. Why don't we try something else? And then it becomes a great discussion of what do you want to try, and then you get no answers from anybody. You go try something, and nobody shows up. Then it's back to the trucks. So, so Derek Myers says, falling back a little bit, about a half second. Bob Gillenwater, who's up to third, is looking to get around that 20 truck. And then Tyler Dalton right there with him, as you see now, the 99 at Tommy Ryan trying to get around Brad Herman for the 5th position. Brad moves up about a full truck length and just gives the spot to Tommy, gets back in line. Might cross him up here.
That was a... Go ahead, Chris.
Now, I was going to say, wasn't able to make the move. Now he goes to the apron and makes the move.
Yeah, and I thought he was trying to let him by at the beginning there and maybe just save his stuff, but getting really close through turn 1 and 2 here. We have quite a good battle here for just inside the top 5, is still side by side going down the back.
Yeah, Herman not wanting to give up this spot, which I don't blame him, but all this is doing is allowing the leaders to pull away, and now has brought Kevin Brown into the battle. Tommy's going to have to kind of stick it in there to not lose the track position, but Tommy's going to kind of pull the air off the right rear and see if he can side draft up there.
Yeah, and I think Brown is just liking what he's seeing in front of him as these two drivers go to battle. And, we were talking about them losing those front few cars. It actually seems like they've gained about 1.5 tenths running side by side like that. Have not necessarily fallen off a ton, but it seems like everything has started to get straightened out, and we're right back to where we were, minus Tommy Ryan, +1. He'll move himself inside the top 5.
Yeah, Kevin in the 7th position, up 5 spots so far. Biggest movers in the race actually sit back in 9th and 10th right now. 9th place, Eric Arnold from the 9 plus 14 carry to win at 23rd to the 9th position right now, and Jimmy Coleman from 24th to 10th in the race. So those two kind of started mid-pack and towards the back, actually more the back in this case, since there's only 27 trucks or 26 taking a green flag, and now run up in the top 10. So they've done a great job kind of being patient on a track that is not the easiest to pass. And one thing here too, and this might be more of an iRacing item, is I'm watching Kevin shift here. So he goes down, he downshifts right here mid-brake. Actually does it more for acceleration here. But watch him more in 3 and 4 as they both clip the apron. That doesn't help either of them. But watch down 3 and 4. It's almost like they use the shifting mid-corner, and that's something that you don't see in a real race normally, I don't think.
Yeah, and like I said, I think they're mostly using it in 3 and 4 to help to try and get the truck rotate from getting too terribly tight on exit there to just trying to get it rotate around. Turn 1 might be a little different, trying to slow it, but to be quite honest with you, up until tonight, I had never heard of shifting at Nashville. I've ran the trucks here and, ran plenty of times, maybe different setups come into play of what they have done with the setup, whether it's just baseline or something different. But as we see another battle there, the 85 starting to fall back quite quick as Brown now down to the inside.
Yeah, Brown to the inside. I mean, next-gen car I ran here, yes, we shifted. That makes sense from 5th to 4th gear, but in this truck, it's like, again, it's those features that, I guess, in time have just changed of racing this track. I mean, one of the races I continue to think about, it's funny, we did a Nashville race earlier this season in the Friday Night League we cover, and we couldn't help but think back to the 2005 race, I think it was, where if you go back and watch this, it's all over YouTube probably. It's the race where Michael Waltrip is running 5th coming off turn 2, and he wins the race because everybody wrecks in front of him. And that's more with just everybody was running single file, got into each other, got loose, and just started wrecking. And here comes old 5th place Michael Waltrip out of turn 2 and goes to win the race. And it's like, that was the kind of racing I remember at Nashville, was just to sit on that yellow line. So it's like when I watched that first weekend there last year and then watch this week or this season's, I'm like, man, this is different. And it's cool. You like to see the multi-groove racing and stuff, but it's just a different style in Nashville than what you're used to. And you mentioned it obviously a little bit ago. You see Tommy Ryan inside of Gillenwater, who's starting to fall back a little bit. He's lost 3rd to Dalton and now loses 4th to Tommy Ryan. But it's with the advances of these cars now. We don't have any more of those old at the time Busch Series or Nationwide Series cars. Now we got the modern day Xfinity cars and the Cup cars and these trucks that have had so many different elements added to them that have just created this style of racing now that Nashville's its own thing now.
Yeah, and Nashville was a welcomed addition to the real life schedule as well. I know I personally enjoyed going to Nashville, the Music City. The atmosphere of the race was great, minus the temperature. That was a little hot. But other than that, it was pretty great. But while we've been talking about, completely irrelevance of the racetrack, Mojica has driven out to a 2.5 lead over Myers and has just started to continually pull away. But something that I'm just taking a look at, and I have been the past 5 to 10 laps here, is Kevin Brown is the same pace as Mojica and is gaining spots quite quickly.
Yeah, he's up to the 6th position right now. And those two are actually in the same Discord with each other, teammates with the, yes, this is a team name called Team Name. And they're out there running right now 6 positions apart. But yeah, Pedro Mojica an 83 to an 89 there for Kevin. So something must be hooked up on that 93 that is definitely helping. It has to be tire wear at this point. There's really not many things that, as we look, we're now almost 30 laps into a run here. There's not many things at this point that if you haven't done it at the beginning of the run, that you're not going to feel different at this part. Like if you've been pushing the truck really hard, you're going to get tight. If you've saved your tires, you might start to work your way up through the field. And that's where I think Kevin maybe has saved his tires. And now he's coming up on the back of the Bob Gillenwater truck. And right behind them, you see Bobby Wetzel inside of Eric Arnold. So I think this is the point in the run as we're going to start seeing the comers and goers as those who have maybe saved that right front tire are going to get there. Or they're really going to try to push it now because we're about halfway into the run as Wetzel slides up.
Yeah, and side-by-side battling still going through, but I think that's mostly due to, in part, of, like you were saying, the tire wear and guys who saved their stuff, as I believe Wetzel now going to, just be so close as he slides up. 3 trucks just about under a blanket here as they work their way off of 4. And I think the run down the front straightaway might be enough for Bobby to enter off into turn 1. Yep, clears him, and the crossover right there, as well as they're back side by side in turn 1.
I was waiting for Eric to send it in there, and that's something that's very underrated here. We've mentioned it once or twice, but I don't think it's mentioned enough at this track. Again, a lower banked track. I know this is more medium banked compared to like a Gateway or a New Hampshire, but still the factor is here where you can easily overdrive the entry of a corner on the inside of a truck and completely wipe them out.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as I'm still looking at that battle, Eric Arnold finally starting to fall back off, but really doesn't want to give up that spot as
That's
he's
Eric
still
Arnold.
trying to battle Wetzel there, and they're back side by side. But, this flat track, I mean, if you drive it in off there hard, there's a very good chance you'll slide up and take both trucks with you as, they're still trying to battle side by side there.
Yeah, Eric backs it off there. You saw Gillenwater lose the spot to Kevin, so the Brown is definitely one of the faster trucks. It's a great point you mentioned there, Ricky, on that. And you see now Eric kind of gets checked up. Jimmy Coleman went to make a move. Arnold kind of defensive. I say that because Eric Arnold has his tendencies of being a pretty aggressive driver. And some people have kind of been critical of it, and some people haven't. But that's the way people drive sometimes. And he was able to make the pass there in a clean way, and everything works out. It looks like 4 to 31 truck. I mean, everybody's got their different styles. I don't oppose to it. I mean, I've got my own style, but you do what you got to do when you're out there racing.
Yeah, and I think that whole debacle there of running side by side had happened. It almost looked like Arnold had been close to getting up into the wall and maybe lost that
Mm.
position to Wetzel there, and that's why he was battling back so hard. As you can see now, 3, 4 car lengths he's starting to pull on that pack.
Yeah, so he's definitely getting back into rhythm. You saw Gillenwater get back past Tommy Ryan for fifth also on the screen. So basically, this fifth through 10th place area has been the hot spot so far here in this little battle. So we'll keep an eye on it as maybe, just maybe it's settled in here for just a quick second. But it looked like there Arnold might have almost caught the wall, but I don't see too much lost momentum. I do see Montesi has poked his nose out on Jimmy Coleman. Jimmy's going to let him go.
Yeah, and that was probably a smart move there by Coleman. If he's already starting to feel that wear in the tire and starting to know he's a little bit off pace, it's not going to help him at all to run side by side as Mike gets his way by and now starts to pull. But most of these trucks that we're seeing right now, Chris, all pretty much single file. We have the occasional battle of a truck trying to go by someone just a little bit slower and, working their way by in a lap or two. But for the most part, single file around the bottom, which, to be honest, is not what I had expected when we started 60 laps ago of what we were going to see when we started to get into the run.
I agree 100%, but one thing we have seen is Tyler Dalton has changed something up in his driving here in the second part of the race because he's driven past Gillenwater. He drove up past, or actually stayed ahead of Tommy Ryan, but drove past Gillenwater, has worked his way up to P3, and here he is now on the tailgate of this number 20 truck of Derek Myers, looking to take the second position back, about 2.5 seconds back, and you see Kevin DeBrown is about 4.5 back out in clean air, so we'll have to watch Kevin's times compared to Mojica, as you mentioned. But Tyler putting the pressure here on his 20 truck.
And they've stayed pretty much, 2 truck lengths apart for the majority of this run. So seeing Dalton kind of starting to come lively here towards the late part of this run is very surprising. It almost makes me think he was kind of using the draft to just stay with Myers there and then start to kind of open it back up when he started to feel that maybe he ran his stuff off.
See Derek trying to adjust his lane a little bit, maybe trying to try something different with his truck. But this is the longest run so far we've had of the race, and I couldn't help but notice up out of the windshield as we were looking ahead from Tyler, I could see the red truck of Mojica, and I saw some trucks out in front of him. So we're going to see some lap traffic, I think, in the very near future of this race. But I'm looking at it right now. We're 61 laps in the books now. 26 was the pit. We're 110 laps. So we're at 50 to go right now. So if you can get another, I would say 10 laps out of this truck, get it to pit road maybe. That might be the way to go here. 40 to go. Get on pit road.
Yeah, absolutely. But you also got to think of where that's going to put you later on if we have a late race restart. I mean, we have seen it in the first 2 races, most definitely, of these late race restarts of these drivers having to kind of have maybe a set still laying in the pit area to come down. So if you come down, get that set of tires, and you work your way up front, might just be a pit game here if we do get a green-white checkered or a late race caution.
Last lap times, I mean, everybody in the top 5 all within about a 1/10 and a half of each other. So the pit times or the lap times are right on top of another. I mean, Pedro is out there running flat still himself, but the other 4 trucks within 5/100ths of each other, 13 to 16 to 17 and 18. So I think part of that might be the draft, but also part of that is these guys are just so equal with these fixed setups that it's just, this is where track position just plays a huge role, and I think also rolls back into what we just talked about, which is great. It's stressful for these drivers, but for us it's entertaining when we have to sit there and think of pit strategy. It's like, okay, do you pit here at 40 to go? And then it's like, all right, caution comes out, I'm going to be sitting here. Caution doesn't come out, we're going to get out here at this point. But a couple things I'll share here. Kevin DeBrown is going to be one to watch in this 93 truck because he's one of those that isn't scared to go drop a short pit on somebody and get out there and get to racing. So I think he's going to be one to watch, and if he makes the move, it might be the move that brings others to pit road. Pedro usually will wait just from the tendencies and stuff like that, so don't be surprised if you see Kevin DeBrown maybe be the guy that starts the pit stops here. But one thing for sure, Pedro is pulling away by about a 1/10 a lap every lap.
Yeah, and I mean, still looking at the lap times, the only driver who's in the same zip code as Pedro and running within a couple hundredths is Brown in the 93 truck. So if he is the first one to come down pit road with seeing his long run speed and he has to take note of it, he might be better off, kind of doing that short pit strategy and coming in, because even if he's on older tires, he still has that speed later on in the run. Whatever he's figured out to save those tires is working out well for him.
This is where I fail at predicting. Eric Arnold and Brandon Key already on pit road. Now, they're not technically in the lead group. They're up near the top 10. But those guys are the first two to come to pit road here for tires and fuel. Lap number 66, so 44 laps to go. We'll see how much that helps that Voodoo Racing truck and that Wendy's truck that come to pit road. So those are the first two. But who will be the first two up in the top 5 to come to pit road? How about we separate it by that? As Brandon Key actually has issues getting back on track. It looked like he maybe clipped some of the grass there. Maybe very tough pit road to get off of. Oh, by the way, because of how tight the corner is, and you got to stay on that apron all the way around to the back straightaway.
Yeah, it's almost, I mean, it's exactly similar to Homestead having to follow that pit road exit where you have a strip of grass, as you can see it right there as we come out of 2, in between the pit road exit line as well as the track. It's very, very treacherous, and on cold tires, that truck likes to skate around on that flat apron.
Jimmy Coleman has gotten around Mike Montesi for position. Looks like Tyler Dalton has kind of settled in behind Myers, and DeBrown is still kind of hanging out there in the 4th position, about 5.8 back. As you said, he's been running lap times about similar to Mojica, but it's literally now get yourself into position to make that pit stop. PJ Luttrell making a stop here at lap 68, but again, none of the leaders have blinked at all here. As I look at, let's see, an 05 for Mojica, 17 for Myers, a 17 for Dalton. And these are all in the 32-second bracket, so everybody's within just a couple tenths of each other. It's just a matter of, okay, when do you make that move? And if you're Tyler Dalton here, I don't know if you're necessarily racing Pedro Mojica, but you're racing Derek Myers in this case. So you got to kind of play the role here of, okay, if you're having a hard time getting around this 20 truck, your truck's really tight right now, how are you going to get around him and get that clean air? You come to pit road. But the other factor coming into play, you see the 2 truck of Mike Kelly in front of him. So now lap traffic's coming into play into this race as we continue green.
Yeah, absolutely. And someone who is really, really struggling right now.
Jeff Ryan coming in.
Yeah, that was a little bit of a late decision there. I don't know if he knew he was coming to pit road or that was coming out of 4.
Well, no, I said Jeff Ryan was catching the back of his pack here. Sorry, I should have stood corrected. Jeff Ryan coming up on the back of his pack with fresh tires.
Yeah, but going back to what I was saying, somebody who's really struggling right now, Tommy Ryan in the 99 truck has just been straight falling back. Brad Herman in the 85 has now worked his way by, but I don't know if Tommy maybe just kind of burnt his stuff off earlier in the run, but you could see, I mean, he's downshifting really, really early in the corner, really backing up his entry and lacking that exit speed.
We'll watch his wheel a little bit here in the corner, see how much he's putting into it. That hand's coming up there near 1 o'clock almost now. So, yeah, obviously a little tight, not really going to the right at all, so he's not swatting flies. So, obviously, the truck is running a little bit on the tight side of things right now. 38 to go. Pit window's open for anybody to come to pit road. Kevin Stone is in the 17 truck. This is getting critical here because, as you mentioned now, some of these guys, if they've ran this tire too hard, as you mentioned, they'll get that the pit guy getting on there and saying, all right, starting to get a little more tire wear than usual or whatever. And that could play, as you mentioned, a big role here. And that's almost telling you, get to pit road now.
Yeah, absolutely. And as some of these guys just inside the top 10 or just outside of it come down pit road, I mean, qualifying times were in the 30.4s, 30.5s. Right now it's 32.3, so almost 2 seconds drop off. As right now, looking at Myers, he is exactly 2 seconds dropped off from his qualifying time. So as these guys towards the back start to come in and file into pit road, they're going to be gaining about 2 seconds a lap. So a 10-second gap from the leader could close quite quickly.
As we look here, you see Tyler Dalton not going to lose a spot necessarily here, but going to get passed by one of the trucks that have been to pit road as Mike Montesi comes to pit road. That was the 24, by the way, PJ Luttrell that went by. PJ's got a very Halloweenish paint scheme, needless to say, on that 24 truck. But he makes the pass on Dalton. I was looking down at Eric Arnold. I was looking down at Brandon Key's lap times. Those two have been to pit road. They're running about 31.2s right now compared to the leaders who are running 32.15s and 17s. Looks like those lap times have kind of settled out. There's Montesi on pit road now in the 6 truck. Right side tires for him. And he gets left side tires. Mike and us were joking a little bit before the race about how he's been on iRacing a very long time, needless to say.
Yeah, he's been back towards the BC days, I believe, is what I had brought up. His account number has BC right before it.
Roman numeral I ratings. But needless to say,
Brown is in. Brown just came down pit road out of 4th spot.
There he goes, 34 laps to go, and he comes sliding it through there as Kevin comes to pit road. He's going to bring Jimmy Coleman with him. Coleman locks it down. 45-mile-an-hour speed limit, I believe it is here at Nashville as they come into their pit stalls. 93 going to enter first here. Should be 4 tires and fuel. Let's see if this brings Gillenwater or Dalton or others to pit road.
I mean, I would say in the next 2 to 3 laps, these leaders are going to have to come down because Brown wasn't too far off of Pedro, about 8 seconds. So that's roughly about 3 laps, right, and he's gained that time back. So these drivers up inside the top 5 going to have to make a decision quick on the next 2 to 3 laps.
Kevin with a 14.8 second stop, so good job on his crew's part. You saw Ron Holyfield come to pit road. Ron, unfortunately, was in that little skirmish at the early part of the race. So he's got a lot of damage on that car. Kevin is out of control over on the apron. He's going to end up getting a penalty because he went to try to save the truck and had to drive back on the track to save it. And because of that, got on track before the blue cone. So he's probably going to have a penalty here.
Yeah, that's a very good possibility. And hopefully some of these drivers up front take note of that because the whole urgency of having to come down pit road had just been lost now that truck, the 93 truck of Brown, had gotten loose coming out of pit road.
Yeah, he got very loose, and that's exactly what happened. Just too much speed going around. It's a dirty part of the track. A very underrated part there is people don't realize, yeah, that track's not really been ran on, so it's got stuff all over it. So obviously got to be very careful with these tires. You see Dalton comes to pit road. John Higman on pit road also in the 60 truck. So all these drivers coming in for 4 tires and fuel. And got to be very careful in and out of pit road as Tyler's pit crew is eating ice cream apparently or something. Or they're having a chat about something because that guy is showing hand movements. It's a joke. They don't do much.
Yeah, sometimes they go over the wall. If we were at Martinsville, I'd say they were getting a hot dog. But a couple more trucks in. Glenwater coming down pit road. A couple more trucks follow in suit. I believe that's Ryan and the 99 truck coming down pit road as well.
Yeah, they are all in pit road. I guess I should get a replay mode. Here we go. As we're back live, as you see, here's Kevin serving that penalty. As I mentioned, the unsafe pit exit, which should be probably a 40-second stop and go. So he's got to stop at his stall, sit there for what's going to feel like forever and a day. Probably go to the bathroom while he's got an opportunity to, and then come on back and get out there on track. So rough break there for him as Gillenwater's on pit road. You mentioned Tommy Ryan, and there goes Kevin. So it must have only been a stop and go then.
Yeah, and the 58 is down pit road as well. So now the only truck to not pit, or the only 2 rather, is Myers and Brad in the 58 truck.
And Brian Herman and Derek Myers, you mentioned. Bobby Wetzel. And it should cycle back around. Let's see how Mojica stop is. Right side tires going on. So for those who aren't used to watching iRacing broadcast, basically the drivers in their trucks can see their pit crews. We can't, only because we're actually in spectator mode, as it's called. We're pretty much, if you turn off the broadcast, we're just kind of scoping on races is all we're doing here. We're just putting it out on the stream and broadcasting it. So that's why we're not unable to see all the pit crews actually going to work that are on iRacing. It's you know, one of those things that maybe eventually we'll get to see, but that's one of the really cool things where sometimes as Wetzel comes to pit road, I'll get a broadcast that I have to do like replay on, and the guy who sends me the replay, I'll show their pit stop because you can see their pit crew working, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, Chris, I think you might need a little bit more of a beefier computer if we're going to see all the pit crews go and work under caution. But rather, and nevertheless, the 58 truck of Herman coming down pit road now out of the second spot. So only truck still on track is that 20 of Myers, and he might stay out again this lap, as we'll see.
Are you saying a potato won't work?
Maybe a toaster. You might have to upgrade to a toaster. But if that doesn't work, then maybe just like one of those microwave ovens.
So Myers obviously playing the caution strategy here. He's obviously waiting to see maybe if a yellow would come out, because there's Mojica right there behind him. He's like, I want to trap you a lap down.
Yeah, if the caution does come out, I mean, that is a great move. Only 4 trucks still on the lead lap. I believe Arnold still has not came down pit road. Sigmund in the 04 has not came down pit road. And, yep, Myers now in the 20 truck, entering in sideways as he comes down onto pit road.
I think that's exactly what he was trying to do, is try to keep the leader maybe a lap down, and then once he got passed by him, go ahead and roll it down pit road and get the tires and fuel. It's going to cost him track position. He will probably fall, I would say, down near 10th or so maybe with how close everybody was running in this race, but there's a positive to a negative here. He will have fresh tires, and let's see what he can take advantage of with those 4 Mr. Feelgoods as he gets real deep into his pit stall there. Right side's going on, and that'll hand the lead over to Sigmund in the 04. And then remember who the first truck to pit was? Eric Arnold. So Eric Arnold is going to take the lead of this race. He's going to get caught pretty quickly with the 15-lap, 16-lap fresher tires of Pedro Mojica. But Arnold playing the strategy here, trying to steal some track position. Remember, they do have one more set laying in the pit, so if Arnold, who was running down near the bottom half of the top 10, if not the front part of the top 20, can get a caution in the next 10 laps, then he's going to steal some track position here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, as we're closing down towards the end of the race, I guarantee you the 20 truck of Myers kicking himself in the butt all the way back to 9th spot as scoring updates when he comes across the line. So Ryan ended up getting by him, Gillenwater, Coleman. Coleman came out really well after this pit cycle here all the way up to the 6th spot.
Arnold tried to run tight with Mojica, slides up the track, and Mojica's going to take the lead away as you saw Sigmund come to pit road. So there's the pass of Eric Arnold. He got down right on the door of the 58, but then you just saw the truck just wash out. And unfortunately lost some traction there. Now Tyler Dalton's going to have to get around him. I guess there's another benefit here to the strategy he's trying, is the fact that it's very tough to pass here. So if he can get that 31 truck to stick right there on the bottom as Tyler slides it in there.
Yeah, and I think Tyler just a little worn out, Chris. I don't think he necessarily has the feel goods enough to battle and maybe pinch some of these other trucks down to the bottom of the track.
30.4 of Myers last time by, so I think he's driving angry now.
Yeah, maybe just a little bit, but someone who is definitely a little heartbroken going by Arnold in the 31 truck now is Kevin E. Brown, now scored in the 21st spot, 2nd truck a lap down.
Yeah, Kevin, unfortunately, going to probably kick himself for that one a little bit. Unfortunate deal there. So tough break for Kevin as he had that penalty for just getting loose on pit road, but Myers is literally flying up through this field right now. He's unfortunately about 8 seconds back. He's running 30.78 right now. It's about a half second off the lead. He's coming up on Tommy Ryan right now. He's going to try to get the run off the corner. Don't want to misjudge here. He might be able to get 2 for 1 into 3 here. So he's right on board this 20.
Yeah, and you could see him. He is driving it off in there deep, trying to haul, get as many positions on these newer tires than some of the trucks in front of him. And, yep, gets a 2 for 1 there coming out of turn 4. So 2 more spots, not quite yet, but maybe as he goes off into turn 1, he'll get 2 there. But just moved himself inside the top 5. It is now going for, I believe, what is going to be the 3rd spot of Arnold here in a minute.
Yeah, he's going to be getting after that here just shortly. He's got Coleman actually right there in front of him in 4th, and then the 3rd place spot of Arnold, as you mentioned, which if he does get there, then it kind of evens out with what he tried. So, you know, no harm, no foul when it's all over with. But once he gets to 2nd or 3rd potentially here, as he gets around Coleman now for 4th, this right here I think is going to be key for Myers. Let's see what kind of lap times he runs out here in clean air. Could there be a potential chance that Myers can get to Mojica?
There might be a shot. I mean, he does have 5 or 6 lap newer tires, but the thing that he has to be concerned about is if the tire wear is going to equalize out between those 2 trucks and he's just going to kind of be stuck 7 to 8 seconds behind. But you could see just driving past these trucks inside the top 5, past Coleman about a lap and a half ago, has already pulled out almost a 1.5-second gap.
Yeah, he's just driving away right now from Coleman. He's still got about 3 seconds up to Eric Arnold right now. But now you see Gillenwater. He's going to attack Jimmy Coleman himself now. Tommy Ryan behind him. Tommy, oh, I thought he was thinking 3 wide. I'm like, don't do that, Tommy.
Yeah, that would have been a little close there, but looks like he just gave Gillenwater a push. Maybe he thought better of it. He was like, Chris wouldn't like this. And
I'm okay with it. Driver's mind. I'm like it.
But regardless, he's now to the inside of Gillenwater there, so still getting the position, but just took him an extra corner. But 3 wide, I don't think would have turned out too well there. It seemed like they were pretty low on the track anyways.
Yeah, and they're all smart. It's just I kind of had a 99.9% feeling Tommy was not going to make that move, but there's always that 0.1% that we're just logically not thinking. So Myers has already caught the back of Eric Arnold. As it's not because Myers is that quick. It's because Eric, his tires are burning off, and he's already lost about 4 seconds or so in the last couple of laps, and now Myers about 7.5 back has caught the back end of the 31 truck running 32.23s as Arnold, and Myers running 31.14. So he's going to pretty much blow by him and take the 3rd position back. So in the end, if you're Derek, yes, you're going to be frustrated. You might not win this race, but at least you're going to smile because it is balanced out as you're back to 3rd now, at least, at right where you were running in this race when pit stops happen. So that's got to be something at least to, if there's any kind of a solid lining here.
Yeah, absolutely. But, looking at times here, 2 laps ago, Myers, 0.2 faster than Pedro. Last lap.
3 wide into 1. Sorry, 3 wide into 1. Herman and Simley and Higman were all 3 wide here. Just caught that out of the corner of my eye and continue with what you were saying.
Well, I was just saying that 1/10 to 2/10 faster a lap is Myers than Mojica in the lead, but I was just looking at the 20 truck and switchback as they had just gotten out of that 3 wide battle.
Yeah, I was. When I looked over, I saw they were all within 1/10 of each other, and then I click over, and I see the Wendy's truck is up near the drive-through lane on the top side. And here come the 2 trucks at the bottom, and thankfully they all worked it out. But Scott Simley has had a quiet run up 6 places to 9th as he battles with Herman, who notices he has a some right front damage there that's probably not helping that truck arrow-wise. And Herman's going to slide it up in front of Scott. And Scott's going to get in the back of him and be like, I do not appreciate that, young man.
Yeah, and I think that was a pretty close move. You can see him side drafting now down the front straightaway. I think the 85 may have, towards the end of that last run, got up into the wall. But that is hurting terribly on the bottom of somebody else. You're already getting tight from trying to hold it down to the bottom. That right front damage isn't going to do you very much good.
It is not, and obviously it makes the truck even tighter being on the bottom. You got to put a lot of wheel into it. You don't want to swing up into the 12 truck, and basically here comes Herman again. He's going to try, I think, a more cleaner version of a pass here, but he's down on speed, so Simley's going to get to his inside. About got to his quarter panel there, which could have been bad. And now Scott's maybe got the preferred groove.
Yeah, Chris, and maybe we call that like the Uno reverse card of inside, back outside, but
Look out.
Almost 3 wide again. He's thinking about it, just barely. Everybody on their quarter, 3 wide, going off into 3.
Careful, and Herman sends it in there on the top side. Higman there on the bottom. Simley there is going to unfortunately be maybe the big loser in this whole thing. Racing picking up here with 11 to go.
Yeah, and I mean, this is the racing for just inside of the top 10. If Myers ends up getting to the front half, or at least to Dalton and possibly Mojica for the lead, I mean, we might see better racing, but I think you might be running out of time here, Chris.
Yeah, 10 laps to go, and this was more the racing we thought we were going to see throughout the event. This side-by-side, people crossing over others and that kind of thing, but we really haven't, hey, he says it best, never settle. But unfortunately, we haven't had that really tonight, and it's unfortunate, but, for Higman, it's fortunate he's able to make the move for 9th, Herman up to 8th. But Myers, yeah, unfortunately, he's going to run out of time. He's gaining about a 10th a lap, which, you do the math, he needs like 70 more laps. But he's only got 9.
I mean, we are in the midst of lap traffic, Chris.
True.
So not to put the commentator's curse on the 58 truck of Pedro, but lap trucks can mean a lot at 1.5 miles. So we might see either a caution later on in this race or, whatever else to happen as I believe
Ooh.
Ryan in the 4th spot now. I don't know. I believe he had actually passed Arnold and Gillenwater just a few moments ago. I think we had missed that one.
He did, and Gillenwater's actually going to go by. But you're trying to say that lap cars matter?
I haven't heard that one since I don't know, about
Yesterday?
4 seasons ago, but I could argue that. I could argue that.
There's an inside joke for people watching between Ricky and I with that, so it's something to another league. But either way, Gillenwater makes the pass on the 31 trucks to move Eric back to 6th now. So the question here is, can Myers get to Dalton? He's about 2/10 faster. And he's digging. He's down there on that apron, trying to get everything he can get. Drives it in there pretty deep to turn 1. It's about 1.6 right now between Dalton and Myers. 7 laps to go. I think Mojica's already in downtown Nashville right now.
Well, hopefully not.
Well, at least distance-wise.
Figuratively speaking.
Yes. Yeah, if he's in Nashville, he might be on the street circuit racing.
Yeah, exactly. We might be running the Music City Grand Prix, not the SuperSpeedway.
He's at Tootsie's, probably having a good time, apparently. That's where everybody goes. So. Like they sponsor a car or something. All right, 6 laps to go here at Nashville. And as I go check at the schedule, next week we go to Chicagoland Speedway. Speaking of unfortunate tracks that might be getting forgotten or being forgotten about. I don't know what the proper English is for that, but a track that's just sitting there collecting dust.
Yeah, well, Chicagoland, I will say, is one of my favorite tracks
Awesome.
on iRacing. So I'm looking forward to that, to see exactly what the Transervice Truck Series can produce at a place like Chicagoland. After a couple of these tire builds, the top lane does come in, so we might actually get to see that multi-groove racing we were missing tonight.
And that's a very bumpy track, too. We'll talk a lot about the, turn 4 bump? I think that's pretty serious there. Chicago, you and I actually joked about it a little bit off the air last week about what it can do to some of the vehicles, but the bottom lane of turn 1 and 2 there at Chicago, that thing's got some bumps in it. And obviously the whole curve in the back straightaway, the only thing we're missing is a big orange going down the back straightaway. That's the only thing missing.
I mean, we can make that happen.
We could.
I'm just saying.
Nothing Photoshop can't do.
Exactly. I mean, we need to talk to the producer and see if he's doing that.
All right, so as these two go back to war with each other, Simley and Herman, they were side by side. Simley was about a half a track up. And here's the 60 truck of Hickman back behind him again. So somehow Simley got back past his 60. These three cannot figure out who wants to lead who more.
Yeah, but nevertheless, producing the type of racing that we were planning on seeing this evening. But Brad in the 85 truck now stuck on the outside again, as we'll see if he could possibly pinch the 60 truck of John down to the bottom of the track. But looks like he just might be getting driven by now here. Either caught the wall again, made that damage worse, or he's really starting to feel it as these tires get old.
And, of course, we got another truck behind him, as now Bobby Wetzel has joined the battle in the 9 trucks, and now becoming 4 trucks under a blanket. As Mojica's still out there, 5.8 seconds, 2 laps to go. Dalton still second. Looks like Myers is just going to run out of time and end up in the 3rd position here. But this battle right here is on as, I don't know how many races this 85ers ran, but he is running these guys tough. Crossover on Wetzel as Mojica takes the white flag. Final lap.
Yeah, none of these drivers giving an inch with 1 to go, but really, it has been the Mojica show pretty much all day. The 58 truck comes out of turn 2, and he has absolutely rocked the world here in Nashville as just a half a lap to go.
I doubt that he has a guitar that he would want to smash in his living room or something, but at least he smashed the field here tonight at the Nashville SuperSpeedway. He's got a thing for winning. Let's just put it like that. 2nd win in 3 races for Mojica. As he gets Nashville, Dalton will get 2nd. As Kelly lets him go by, so Tyler with a great finish. Derek Myers will end up 3rd with that strategy move. He was able to get as much track position as possible. Tommy Ryan and Bob Gillenwater going to end up the top 5. And the interesting part about this Nashville track, this was actually the race that in the FEG Xfinity Series back mid-season in the month of May, I believe it was, when we were here at Nashville. It was either May or June, that Mojica actually pulled away and from Daniel Falkingham, finally got that first win of the season, and from there drove off and won the championship at the end of the season. So that 58 truck knows how to get around this Nashville track. Leaving the field singing the blues.
Absolutely. And 2 wins in 3 races. We also have to remember that the first race of those 3 races, he didn't compete.
No. And he won the Atlanta Xfinity race, too. So
exactly. So he's 2 for 2, 3 for 3 if we count the Xfinity series. But who's counting?
No. I don't know how to count past 3, so that's the Florida math in me. Anyways, Mojica goes to victory lane as he does some burnouts there, and we'll go to victory lane, one of the coolest trophies in all of racing. Unfortunately, I don't have it in iRacing, but that would be kind of cool if we were able to get one. I would race here all the time then. Mojica wins over Dalton Myers, Tommy Ryan, and Bob Gillenwater finishes 5th. Eric Arnold ends up 6th. So that move on his part actually pays off as he gains some track position there, short pitting. Jimmy Coleman ends up 7th. Scott Simley, John Higman Jr., Bobby Wetzel, and Brad Herman ends up outside the top 10 in the 11th position. Montesi 12th, Brandon Keith 13th. Jeff No comes back to finish in the 14th position. Kevin Stone, Kevin DeBrown, Steve Herring, Ron Holyfield ends up in the 18th position. Brian Wertman 19th, PJ Luttrell 20th, Doug Sigmund 21st, Tom Dreiling 22nd, Mike Kelly 23rd, Jeff Ryan 24th, and then the rest of the cars behind the wall, Yoakum and Jatina, and then Fowler actually did not start the race this evening. Unfortunate for him, but a great race here at Nashville. Only the one caution that came out around lap number 20 or so and turned into a fantastic evening of racing. And let's bring up our 3rd place finisher. They're already hanging out in the waiting room ready to go. Derek Myers. Derek, a great race for you, finishing 3rd. Right about the place we expected. You were about a 2nd to 3rd place car. You tried a strategy basically, and it cost you track position, but you were able to make it back up with the fresh tires. Do you feel like that ended up being a positive move on your part, knowing that you were able to get back to where you were?
Yeah, we had to try something different because if they pitted, that gave me the lead. I got the lead a lap, so there's a bonus point. And then if a caution came out, then I'm sitting good, right? Yeah, I mean, I wish we could have gotten back to 2nd there, but we didn't. And this 3rd place is pretty good, especially after last week when we had a top 3 going, maybe a win, and got wrecked on a restart there late. But 3rd place, we'll come home with that tonight, and we're satisfied.
Talk about obviously the running up through the field there, because I mean, you caught I think it was Tommy Ryan that was running right in front of you when you came out of pit road, and then you just kind of ran through the field, just picking them off one by one, and I'm pretty sure not getting the clean air quick enough did not help things.
Right. It's always fun when you come off pit road like that, and you're pretty much the fastest car out there. Oh yeah, it's a lot of fun. Granted, I'd rather it be clear racetrack so I wouldn't have to pass anyone, but it's still a lot of fun doing that. I thought we were putting together some good lap times there to get to Tyler, but he was able to hold us off by a little over a second, and he's my teammate, so congratulations to him. And Pedro was just so fast tonight, but he's always fast, and maybe one of these nights we'll get him.
It's got to make you feel pretty good that the first 3 races you've been up front, all 3 of them, and showed your speed.
Right. Yes. We've been up there all 3 races, and hopefully we can keep that trend going. And we have some good tracks coming up for us. Tonight wasn't even one of my favorite tracks.
Oh, look out. All right. Well, Derek, send some shout outs to whoever you like to, bud.
I'd like to shout out to Sim500 for putting on the leagues through the week. It's a lot of fun to race in the 3 races that I do every week with them, including tonight. And shout out to Transervice for the paint on the hood. They're a great partner with Sim500. And shout out to you guys for the broadcast. It's going to be fun to go look at it.
Absolutely, my man. Well, appreciate your time, and go celebrate your 3rd place finish.
Thank you.
Hey, you too. Derek Myers finishing in the 3rd place position. Tyler Dalton is hanging out and talking to Ricky, so let's let them have some fun.
Absolutely, and brings it home in the 2nd spot. Tyler Dalton didn't quite have enough for the 58 truck of Mojica. Tell us what you could have done differently, if anything, to get to the rear end of that 58 truck.
There's really not anything that we could have done to get Pedro. He had the field covered by about a 10th per lap, it seemed like there. It was going to come down to a race really for 2nd between me and Derek. And made a decision with that last pit stop to basically make a pit decision racing for second versus the win. We out-qualified Pedro. We were able to stay in front of him in the beginning, but he was just way too consistent and way too strong on the long runs. I'm honestly just thrilled to finally finish where we ran one of these things. Last two races at Atlanta, we were running for the lead, got taken out by horrible net code. We were going to be fourth place finish, I think, worst case scenario last week. Caution comes out. We end up getting knocked into the grass and finishing way in the back. And it just feels nice to finally finish one of these things where we ran all race.
Yeah, absolutely. And some bad luck at the beginning of the season, but this could be kind of an opportunity to get some momentum through the rest of the season. We have another quite big track coming up next week with Chicagoland. Any notes you could take from here to transfer next week?
Well, we just got to run in Chicago not too long ago in our Wednesday night truck series. Probably going to be able to take some notes from that for sure. We ran pretty good there. Hopefully we can not make the pit road mistake we made there, but we ran pretty good there. And we'll see if we have something for Pedro there, but he's definitely strong. And especially at tracks like this, I was a little shocked that I out-qualified him, but at least I beat him at one thing. He may have won the race, led the most lap. At least he didn't get the trifecta of the pole as well.
Absolutely. Well, a great job nevertheless. Congratulations on a second spot, and thank you whatever you like.
I just want to thank all my Sim500 Mafia teammates. Me and Derek definitely ran really well today. Our first pit stop under caution was garbage, and that let him get by me. So I just sort of ran behind him for a while there. I think I may have been maybe a smidge faster, but I wasn't going to push the issue. We were both pretty equal, and we both came home with podium finishes. So.
Absolutely. Well, a great job for you and everybody you're working with. That was Tyler Dalton, who brings it home in the second spot. And, well, the man of the night, Chris, Pedro Mojica, is going to be with you. Maybe you could talk to him a little bit about what makes these tracks so special for him.
Yeah, I think that's something that is very fair to ask. Actually, there he is. I'm like trying to find Pedro. It's like a lot of people down here on pit road and in Victory Lane celebrating with Pedro, and I'm starting to wonder, Pedro, do we need to just come up with a recorded interview to save us all energy every week?
I guess, Chris, would make it easier for everybody, I guess. No, it's been, that's cool, man. That's good to say that.
Right. No,
absolutely. I've been really fortunate to be in here about every week that you've been broadcasting. I told you, man, you got to broadcast all these series. You're good luck for me, I think is what it is. But yeah, man, no, it was, man, that was a dominating performance. I don't know what it is about Nashville. Kind of was a race that started turning the tides in the Xfinity series. Just seemed to have a good feel for this track, no matter if it's the truck or Xfinity car, or even the old Cup car. Did pretty decent running in that too. So I wouldn't say it's one of my favorite tracks, but I don't know, something about it and my driving style just fits well.
I was gonna say, it seems like one of the things you do, and I caught this when you were racing Daniel in the Xfinity series, and I saw it again tonight with Tyler, is you have a way of kind of wrapping the vehicle around that yellow line and allowing yourself to get the drive off that you need to get the momentum down the straightaway, complete the pass over in the next corner. Is there something that feel-wise that you're just able to do to be able to allow that truck to do such a thing? Because obviously from center off, it's very easy to get back to the throttle very, very hard and obviously push the truck up the track, where you're able to just kind of, just throw a fishing line out there and just kind of just seal right around that line the whole time.
Yeah, I just, like you said, I just try to aim for that yellow line or white line or whatever it was and just try to wrap it around the corner. The biggest thing is just trying to keep you're trying to keep the arrow on the truck, on the nose. So whatever you could do to like offset from the truck in front of you, it helps a little bit. So just try to focus on that and just manage my tires, especially there at the beginning. I know Tyler was working hard to lead a lap, so I gave it to him, and just kind of, like you said, I just went back to what I did in that Xfinity race and just kind of try to do the same thing with Tyler and just work him over little by little. I had forgotten that we had raced these trucks before in another series at Nashville that you could downshift and it actually would work. I picked up on Tyler doing that during that run as I was catching him, I noticed he'd get good runs off the corner, and I was like, well, man, I feel like we're getting on the throttle about the same point, but how is he getting to drive off and I'm
Right.
not? And then I saw the fire coming out of the tailpipe, so that pretty much told me. And then once I did that, that was it. It helped give me the drive that I need off the corner to get around him and set sail for the rest of the race. So yeah, between wrapping that line and doing that helped a lot.
It was a fantastic run. Obviously, now you get to go to Chicagoland, which is a 1.5-mile track, very bumpy, and carry that momentum on. Obviously, 2 weeks in, you've got yourself 2 wins and already starting to threat for the championship lead. Yes, there's a playoff at the end of the season, but at least we know that obviously it's showing that you might be already being the favorite again for this series title.
Yeah, no, I mean, I appreciate that. I mean, it's tough. It is true when you look at the statistics. Yeah, you have your favorites based off statistics, but I mean, once the playoffs start, man, it's all up in the air. You got a lot of bad things can happen in a few races. It's very cyclical in racing. So even the guys who do good, every now and then you have a bad race. And I mean, the example is Wednesday night. Daniel, you would probably say he was the favorite in the Wednesday night truck series, the Transervice Truck Series, and he fell out of the round of 6. He's not in the round of 6. He fell out by 1 point. So. And when you look at his results through those races, he had one really bad race that ended up costing him a chance at running for a championship. So, Daniel was the favorite in that series, as he is in most series at Sim500. So, I guess what I'm trying to say is I appreciate it, but we'll wait till the end of the season to see if I can pull it off or not, man. It's a lot of things can happen. Late race yellow. And people not taking tires, you take tires or you don't and they do, and then it's just a mad dash to the end. Like a lot of different things can happen in racing. So for right now, everything's rolling well, and I mean, hopefully it continues on. But yeah, we'll see. We'll keep a level head through all this.
Well, there's only 2 or 3 tracks in mind that I can remember from last season you struggled at, and when I say struggle, I mean you were wrecked. And New Hampshire's not on this schedule. Talladega's not on this schedule. Well, Talladega's race number 5 in 2 weeks. I'm sorry, but the first playoff race the second playoff race is Daytona. So you might want to learn how to super speedway race. It's not like you've won a super speedway championship lately. Oh wait.
Yes. So yeah, no, I see that on the radar for sure. So it's just tough, man. Those races are so tough. Like, the biggest thing with those is just come out with minimum damage if possible. So, I mean, we'll see when we get to it. Yeah, this Talladega race coming in a couple of weeks, just going to try some stuff to see what I can learn that maybe could help for the playoffs.
There you go, man. Well, great job tonight. Send some shout-outs.
Chris, I'd like to thank you and Ricky and Captain Esports for the broadcast, putting on the broadcast for the fans. Hopefully we put on a good race for you. It's a fun track.
Absolutely.
Everybody at Sim500, all the admins, welcome to Brandon Key for jumping on board. I heard that he's the new series admin for Sunday nights. So, hey, welcome to him coming in, and appreciate him and jumping on board and taking that on. So, and appreciate Jimmy. I think Jimmy was the one that ran it before. So appreciate Jimmy. He's done such a good job with the series. So he's left it in good hands for Brandon. Everybody at Team Name, it was a pretty small group today. It was just me and Kevin DeBrown, but felt bad for Kevin. He had a good run going, and he just was outside of the blend line coming out of the pits and got black flagged. So, but he was going to do good. But yeah, no, I appreciate Kevin running with me and kicking it for a little bit. So, and then just like to give a shout out to my wife and my kids. So appreciate them letting me race. So I love them and appreciate them letting me come down here and race every once in a while.
He's already 8th in points after tonight, 3 races in. So Pedro Mojica, congratulations on the win, and we will talk next week in Chicago.
All right, man. Thanks, guys.
All right, you too, buddy. Pedro Mojica, the winner tonight here at the Virtual Nashville SuperSpeedway. As I just peek over here at the points, new point leader again for a 3rd straight week. It is Derek Myers now with a 1-point lead over Kevin DeBrown. John Higman, Jimmy Coleman, Brian Wortman, all within 10 points of the point lead after 3 races. So we've got ourselves potentially a very tight battle as we go into round number 4 next week. So we're almost halfway in, just past the third distance, Ricky, and we've got 5 trucks less than 10 points. We've got 10 trucks less than 20 points as we go into the 4th round. So a tight battle for the point lead.
Absolutely, and I mean, that's close to what we've been seeing on the track every single week, so not all that surprising. But, you know, another great weekend of Sim500 Transervice Truck Series competition. I mean, you know, every single week we say that, and we say that these drivers run so close and clean, and I mean, shoot, we had 1 caution tonight, Chris.
Mm-hmm.
You know, what 1 caution here at Nashville, which a track where trucks get really tight and everybody races so closely around each other, and did all night. You know, 1 caution really shows the talent of these drivers.
And that 1 caution it looked like miscommunication basically when it was over.
Absolutely.
So yeah, no, credit to everybody in the series for that. All right, so you want to see something interesting tomorrow night, Monday night, the 811.org Cup Series. We're going road coursing the Charlotte Roval in the next gen car tomorrow night. So we're going to see some fun 60 laps of racing around that track tomorrow night. So make sure you come and join us for that. I've only seen 1 road course race, I think, ever in this series. I'm trying to think back, and it was Watkins Glen in this Cup car, and it was Daniel Falkingham going to Victory Lane. But if I remember correctly, it was a pretty wild race because I remember some last lap argy-bargy. So the Roval is going to be very interesting come tomorrow night. But Ricky, appreciate your time, my man. Be safe on your way to Homestead down in Florida. And we will see you back here next Sunday night.
Absolutely. I appreciate it, Chris.
Absolutely. As we send big shout outs to Transervice for the sponsorship of the Winter Cups or Winter Truck Series here in the Sim500. Joey Jatina, appreciate obviously allowing us to broadcast here on Sunday and Monday nights in the series. All the fans and viewers who watch us and the racers, appreciate everybody for their great racing and support and stuff like that, for helping me get some numbers and things like that to make it look like I'm actually know what I'm doing up here in the booth. So with that said, we're heading out. Appreciate Ricky Springer for joining us. I'm the captain. Always remember, this isn't just a game. It's iRacing. See ya!